Pennsylvania looks boring on a map, right? Wrong. This state hides geography so insane that when scientists first discovered some of these facts, they thought their equipment was broken. We're counting down 50 facts that sound completely made up, and number 1 will blow your mind. At number 50, Pennsylvania contains more than 86,000 miles of rivers and streams flowing through its landscape. That's enough waterway to wrap around Earth's equator more than 3 complete times and still have thousands of miles left over. Every single drop of water in these rivers tells a story millions of years in the making. The network is so vast that you're never more than a few miles from flowing water anywhere in the state, creating an intricate web that shaped human settlement patterns for centuries. Coming in at number 49, the Appalachian Mountains running through Pennsylvania are nearly 480 million years old. To put that in perspective, these mountains existed before trees had even evolved on planet Earth, standing silent witness to life's earliest experiments on land. When these peaks were young and tall, the entire planet looked alien and unrecognizable. Continents were in completely different positions. The atmosphere had different composition, and the only life forms were primitive organisms struggling to survive in a world nothing like today. Number 48 brings us to Centralia, a town that has been burning underground continuously since 1962. Smoke and steam still rise from cracks in the ground today, more than 60 years later, with no end in sight to this subterranean inferno that consumed an entire community. The fire feeds on vast coal seams beneath the surface, spreading through an underground maze that may continue burning for another 250 years. Most residents fled decades ago, leaving behind a ghost town where the earth itself glows with heat and toxic gases seep through shattered pavement. At number 47, Pennsylvania hides over 3,000 caves beneath its surface, and some of these contain ice formations that never melt even during the hottest summer months. These permanent ice features exist in darkness, preserved by geological conditions that create natural freezers deep underground. Explorers descending into these frozen chambers find themselves in an alien world where temperatures plunge while the surface above swelters. Massive ice columns and sheets glitter in headlamp beams, defying the calendar and reminding us that temperature rules don't always apply when geology gets involved. Number 46 reveals Pennsylvania's Grand Canyon, officially called Pine Creek Gorge, stretching 47 miles long and plunging up to 1,450 feet deep. Despite rivaling many Western canyons in scale and beauty, most Americans have never heard of it and couldn't find it on a map. The gorge cuts through ancient rock layers, like a knife through cake, exposing geological history spanning hundreds of millions of years. Waterfalls cascade down its walls, forests blanket its slopes, and eagles soar through air so clear you can see for miles, yet it remains Pennsylvania's best-kept secret. At number 45, Pennsylvania boasts more covered bridges than any other state in America, with 219 still standing. These wooden structures represent frontier engineering at its finest, built by craftsmen who understood how to make timber span rivers and last for generations. Each bridge tells a story of communities connecting across water, of farmers bringing crops to market, of lovers meeting in secret beneath protective roofs. Many have survived floods, fires, and wars, standing as monuments to an era when every crossing required careful planning and solid craftsmanship. Number 44 takes us to Bilger's Rocks, where nature has stacked massive boulders in formations that seem to defy gravity and logic. These rocks balance on tiny contact points, creating natural sculptures that look like they should topple but have stood for thousands of years. Geologists believe ice wedging during ancient freeze-thaw cycles split the rocks apart, while erosion removes supporting material to create these impossible-looking towers. Visitors walk through narrow passages between boulders, feeling small beneath stones that nature arranged with more artistry than any human sculptor. At number 43, the boulder field covers 16 acres of Pennsylvania hillside with nothing but massive rocks. No soil exists here. No trees grow. Just an endless expanse of boulders piled against each other like a giant's discarded toy box. Scientists think periglacial conditions during the Ice Age fractured bedrock into these countless pieces, creating a river of stone frozen in place when the climate warmed. Hiking across it feels like walking on an alien planet where vegetation never gained a foothold and geology reigned supreme. Number 42 brings a surprising fact about Pennsylvania's Lake Erie shoreline. Despite bordering one of the world's largest freshwater lakes, the state controls only 51 miles of coastline, making it the shortest Great Lakes shoreline of any bordering state. This tiny slice of waterfront became critically important throughout history, giving Pennsylvania access to maritime trade routes and fishing grounds that powered economic development. Every mile of that precious shoreline has been fought over, developed, and cherished like the geographic gold it represents. At number 41, Pennsylvania sits on 5 different physiographic provinces, giving it more geographic diversity than most states twice its size. From the Atlantic coastal plain to the Appalachian Plateau, the state packs incredible variety into relatively compact territory. You can experience drastically different landscapes within a single day's drive, moving from flat farmland to rugged mountains to rolling valleys. Each province has its own geology, ecology, and character, making Pennsylvania a geographic sampler platter of eastern North American environments. Number 40 introduces Ringing Rocks Park, where boulders actually ring like bells when struck with a hammer. The rocks produce clear musical tones, turning the boulder field into a natural xylophone that has baffled scientists for generations. The exact mechanism remains mysterious, though researchers believe it involves the rock's internal structure and high iron content creating acoustic resonance. Visitors spend hours making music on stone instruments that nature provided, each boulder tuned to its own unique pitch by geological forces. Here. At number 39, Meadow Run offers a natural water slide, where water has polished rock surfaces, smooth over millennia. People slide down these geological chutes, riding the same paths that water carved through patient erosion spanning thousands of years. The experience connects us directly to geological time, our bodies following courses that water established long before humans arrived. Each smooth curve and polished surface represents countless floods and flows, nature's slow but relentless sculpting of solid stone into playground. Number 38 marks Pennsylvania, as containing the exact geographic center of the original 13 colonies. Near the town of Dillsburg, a specific point represents the mathematical middle of America's founding territory, the balance point around which revolution and nation-building orbited. This geographic centrality gave Pennsylvania outsized importance during the colonial period and early republic. The state became a crossroads, where north met south and east met west, making it the natural location for compromise, debate, and the forging of American identity. At number 37, Pennsylvania's Ridge and Valley region creates microclimates where temperatures can vary by 20 degrees within just a few miles. The parallel ridges trap air masses and create weather patterns that change dramatically over remarkably short distances. You might need a winter coat on one ridge while people in the valley below wear short sleeves. These temperature inversions and variations make weather forecasting incredibly challenging and create distinct ecological zones packed together like nothing else in the eastern United States. Number 36 reveals Arch Rock, a natural stone arch large enough to drive a bus through. Water and weathering carved completely through solid rock over millions of years, creating a tunnel that demonstrates nature's patient but unstoppable power to reshape landscapes. The arch stands as a reminder that even stone eventually yields to water, wind, and time. What looks permanent and eternal today will eventually crumble and fall, just another temporary form in geology's endless cycle of creation and destruction. At number 35, Pennsylvania contains more forested land now than it did 100 years ago, currently sitting at 59% forest coverage. This represents one of conservation's great success stories, reversing centuries of deforestation through protection and natural regeneration. Where logging once stripped hillsides bare, trees now crowd against each other in dense stands. Wildlife populations have rebounded, watersheds have stabilized, and the state has reclaimed a green heritage that seemed lost forever during the industrial age's hungry consumption of timber. Number 34 places Pennsylvania on the Great Eastern Continental Divide, where water flows to either the Atlantic Ocean or the Gulf of Mexico. A single raindrop's final destination depends entirely on which side of this invisible line it falls. This divide shapes everything about the state's hydrology and ecology. Rivers born mere miles apart end up in different oceans, carrying nutrients and sediments to completely different marine ecosystems. The divide is a geographic fork in the road, where water must choose its ultimate fate. At number 33, Pennsylvania's sinkholes can swallow entire houses overnight. These sudden collapses happen when underground cavities form in limestone bedrock, creating voids that eventually give way beneath the weight of structures above. Here, residents go to sleep in stable homes and wake to find their neighbors' houses tilted at crazy angles or disappeared completely into the earth. The karst geology underlying much of Pennsylvania makes these catastrophic events rare but terrifyingly possible, a reminder that solid ground isn't always solid. Number 32 brings us to Hawk Mountain, where more than 18,000 migrating raptors pass overhead in a single season. Eagles, hawks, and falcons funnel through this natural corridor during their ancient journeys between breeding and wintering grounds. The mountain's geography creates updrafts that raptors exploit to save energy during long migrations. Birdwatchers gather by the thousands to witness this aerial river of predators, each bird following routes established over millennia, navigation encoded in genes and learned through tradition. At number 31, Pennsylvania features burning springs where methane gas bubbles through water and can be lit on fire. These natural gas seeps create the surreal sight of flames dancing on liquid surfaces, water and fire existing together in impossible harmony. The methane originates from deep underground organic deposits, migrating upward through fractures until it reaches the surface. These springs offered early settlers natural gas long before the energy industry existed, a preview of the fossil fuel wealth hidden beneath Pennsylvania's surface. Number 30 reveals that Pennsylvania's highest point, Mount Davis at 3,213 feet, sits in the south while terrain drops significantly going north. This backwards elevation pattern contradicts what most people expect about mountain geography. The counterintuitive topography results from ancient geological processes that created the Appalachian Plateau in the south, while glaciers flattened northern areas. It's a reminder that geography rarely follows our assumptions and often surprises us when we actually examine the details. At number 29, the Poconos Glacial Lake region holds over 150 lakes carved out by Ice Age glaciers. These water bodies occupy depressions gouged into bedrock by ice sheets thousands of feet thick, frozen bulldozers that reshaped the landscape completely. Each lake represents a moment when retreating glaciers left behind ice chunks that melted into distinctive basins. The region became a recreational paradise built entirely by climate change, though the Ice Age variety rather than the modern crisis we face today. Number 28 reveals that Pennsylvania contains one of only 2 natural palm tree habitats north of the Mason-Dixon line. These dwarf palms survive in protected microclimates, tropical refugees clinging to existence in unexpected northern territory. Their presence seems impossible, a biological error that shouldn't exist. Yet here they grow, proof that climate and geography can create surprise pockets where rules don't apply, and species thrive far outside their expected ranges. Nature's way of coloring outside the lines. At number 27, Bushkill Falls contains 8 separate waterfalls in one location, earning its nickname as the Niagara of Pennsylvania. Water cascades down multiple tiers, creating a symphony of falling water that has attracted visitors for generations. The concentration of waterfalls results from resistant rock layers, creating natural steps that water tumbles over in stages. Each fall has its own character and power, together forming a showcase of hydraulic beauty that rivals more famous destinations. Number 26 introduces spook lights near the Susquehanna River, where unexplained lights float above the water. These mysterious glows have been reported for centuries, defying easy explanation and feeding local folklore about supernatural phenomena. Scientists have proposed various theories from marsh gas to atmospheric refraction, but none fully explain the consistent sightings. The lights continue appearing, reminder that some geographic phenomena still resist our attempts to categorize and understand them completely. At number 25, Pennsylvania sits atop the Marcellus Shale Formation, containing an estimated 500 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. This vast underground reservoir represents one of the largest natural gas deposits in the world, energy wealth accumulated over millions of years. The shale formed from ancient organic material compressed under extreme heat and pressure, transformed into hydrocarbons that now fuel modern civilization. Pennsylvania's geology literally powers homes and industries across America, ancient sunlight released from stone after being stored for geological ages. Number 24 marks a point where 3 different watershed systems meet, meaning water falling on this single spot could end up in 3 different oceans: Atlantic, Gulf, or Great Lakes. The raindrop's destination depends entirely on exactly where it lands. This triple divide represents one of North America's most remarkable hydrological features, a geographic nexus where continental drainage patterns converge. Standing there, you can quite literally affect which ocean receives the water you pour onto the ground. At number 23, Pennsylvania's quicksand bogs have swallowed fully loaded wagons whole. These saturated zones occur where water saturates sediment so completely that it loses all bearing strength, creating deadly traps that look deceptively like solid ground. Historical accounts describe wagons, and even livestock disappearing completely into these bogs, consumed by earth that behaved more like liquid than solid. The bogs still exist in remote areas, patient and hungry, waiting for the unwary to trust surfaces that cannot support weight. Number 22 reveals Pennsylvania as the northernmost point where wild armadillos live in North America. These armored mammals have expanded their range northward over recent decades, pushing into territory once considered too cold for their survival. Their presence in Pennsylvania represents climate change and species adaptation in real time. What once seemed geographically impossible has become reality. Animals rewriting range maps as conditions shift and new habitats become available. At number 21, McConnell's Mill Gorge creates a natural amphitheater where rock walls produce perfect acoustics. Sound waves bounce and reinforce in ways that make even whispers carry clearly across considerable distances. The gorge's precise geometry turns it into a geological sound system, carved accidentally by water, but functional as any concert hall. Musicians who play there describe the experience as magical, their notes amplified and enhanced by stone that happens to be shaped exactly right. Number 20 brings the Devil's Potato Patch, a 15-acre field of massive boulders covering a mountain summit. These house-sized rocks lie jumbled across the peak, like giants abandoned their game of marbles at the highest possible point. The boulder field likely formed through frost wedging over countless freeze-thaw cycles, gradually breaking bedrock into smaller pieces that now cover the mountaintop. Hiking through requires careful navigation, jumping from boulder to boulder with empty air between the rocks. At number 19, Pennsylvania experiences more freeze-thaw cycles than almost anywhere in North America, causing roads to deteriorate faster than in most states. Temperature fluctuations above and below freezing happen constantly during winter and spring. Each cycle expands water trapped in pavement cracks, forcing them wider and creating the potholes that plague Pennsylvania drivers. The state fights a losing battle against thermodynamics, patching roads that winter will simply destroy again in endless, expensive repetition. Number 18 features Loyal Sock Creek, where water drops 94 feet in less than a mile. This extreme gradient creates some of the most intense whitewater in the eastern United States, challenging even expert kayakers with its power and technical difficulty. The creek tears through narrow channels carved in bedrock, concentrating flow into violent hydraulics that can flip boats and trap swimmers. Every rapid represents another battle between water and stone, fought with such intensity that the landscape itself cannot remain unchanged. At number 17, Nuclear Lake glows eerily at night due to specific mineral deposits reflecting light in unusual ways. The phenomenon creates an otherworldly atmosphere that seems supernatural but results from perfectly natural chemistry and geology. Phosphorescent minerals in the lakebed absorb daytime light and release it slowly after dark, creating a ghostly luminescence that has inspired legends and attracted curious visitors. Science explains it, but experiencing it still feels like witnessing something that shouldn't exist. Number 16 reveals areas where Pennsylvania's magnetic anomalies are so strong they affect compass readings. Iron-rich rock formations create local magnetic fields powerful enough to deflect needles and confuse navigation equipment. Early surveyors and explorers found themselves hopelessly lost in these zones, their compasses pointing wrong directions as invisible geological forces overwhelmed Earth's normal magnetic field. Even modern GPS can struggle where concentrated iron deposits play havoc with electromagnetic systems. At number 15, Glen Onoco features 7 major waterfalls cascading down a single mountainside. Water tumbles from fall to fall in a spectacular display that concentrates hydraulic power in one dramatic location. Each waterfall carved its own plunge pool and cascade, working downward through resistant rock layers over geological time. Together they create a staircase of falling water that demonstrates erosion's patient artistry, every drop contributing to the slow but unstoppable reshaping of mountains. Number 14 marks Pennsylvania's location on a fault line that produced a 5.2 magnitude earthquake in 1998. The quake was strong enough to be felt in 11 states, shattering the myth that Eastern America is seismically stable. Buildings shook, chimneys fell, and residents learned that even ancient stable crust can still move and grind along buried weaknesses. The fault remains active, capable of producing future earthquakes that could affect millions living in supposedly safe territory. At number 13, Pennsylvania's Grand Canyon receives less than 200,000 visitors per year despite rivaling Western canyons in beauty and scale. This remarkable underappreciation means you can experience spectacular scenery without the crowds that mob more famous destinations. The gorge remains wild and relatively undeveloped, protected by obscurity as much as by law. Those who make the effort find themselves rewarded with pristine wilderness and dramatic views that would be overrun with tourists if located anywhere else. Number 12 features the natural bridge at Noble's Grove. Formed when a river carved completely through solid rock, water found the path of least resistance and simply cut a tunnel, patient erosion eventually breaking through to create an arch. The bridge demonstrates water's ultimate victory over stone, liquid wearing away solid through sheer persistence over time. What seems permanent proves temporary when measured in geological ages. Every rock formation just a temporary sculpture awaiting water's final revision. At number 11, Pennsylvania contains headwaters of 5 major river systems that drain into 3 different bodies of water. The state serves as a hydrological distribution center, sending water toward Atlantic Ocean, Gulf of Mexico, and Great Lakes from a single geographic area. This convergence of watersheds gave Pennsylvania enormous ecological and economic importance. Rivers born here flow for hundreds or thousands of miles, carrying nutrients, sediments, and pollution far beyond state borders, making Pennsylvania's land use decisions matter to distant ecosystems. Number 10 reveals Pennsylvania's snow belt, where lake-effect snow from Lake Erie can dump 200+ inches annually. Moisture evaporating from the relatively warm lake water falls as snow when Arctic air masses pass over. Communities in the snowbelt experience winter conditions that rival anywhere in North America, buried under accumulations that make daily life a constant battle. Roads disappear, roofs collapse, and residents measure snowfall in feet rather than inches throughout the brutal season. At number 9, Pennsylvania mountains contain ancient ocean fossils at 2,000+ feet elevation. Shells and marine creatures, preserved in stone, now sit atop peaks, evidence of seas that covered this land hundreds of millions of years ago. The fossils tell stories of tropical seas, teeming with life that existed long before mountains rose. Tectonic forces lifted ocean floor into sky, inverting geology and placing marine graveyards at the highest points where rain and wind slowly expose them again. Number 8 features natural oil seeps that Native Americans used for thousands of years, ultimately leading to the world's first commercial oil well in Titusville in 1859. Petroleum bubbling naturally from the ground provided early humans with waterproofing and medicine. These seeps revealed the vast oil deposits hidden underground, launching the modern petroleum industry and changing human civilization forever. Pennsylvania's geology literally powered the Industrial Revolution. Ancient organic matter transformed into the energy that built the modern world. At number 7, Pennsylvania historically contained places where you could stand in 2 time zones at once, due to county-by-county daylight saving time differences. Some counties observed the time change while neighbors did not, creating temporal borders within the state. This time zone chaos made scheduling meetings and transportation nearly impossible across county lines. Though eventually standardized, the period represents geography and government creating absurd situations where crossing a street could change the hour on your watch. Number 6 brings Balance Rock, a massive formation weighing hundreds of tons that appears to defy gravity by balancing on a tiny pedestal. The rock seems impossibly precarious, looking like the slightest breeze should topple it. Yet it has stood for thousands of years, a testament to erosion's ability to create sculptures that challenge our understanding of physics. The rock will eventually fall, but when and how remains a geological mystery that continues defying prediction. At number 5, pure anthracite coal lies so close to Pennsylvania's surface that you can literally pick it up off the ground. This highest quality coal formed under extreme pressure and heat over millions of years. The exposed seams represent geological jackpots, where valuable resources reach daylight without need for mining. Early settlers simply gathered fuel from the ground, harvesting energy that accumulated over geological ages and concentrated in accessible locations through lucky geological accidents. Number 4 reveals that Pennsylvania's rivers flow in opposite directions, some north and some south, creating a natural dividing line through the state. This drainage divide shapes ecology, climate, and human settlement patterns across the entire Commonwealth. Water falling on one side flows toward the Great Lakes, while water on the other side heads for the Atlantic or Gulf. This invisible geographic boundary has influenced everything from trade routes to military strategy throughout Pennsylvania's history. At number 3, Cucumber Falls features water that appears to flow upward during certain wind conditions. Strong updrafts catch the falling water and blow it back toward the sky, creating an optical illusion that defies gravity. The phenomenon only occurs when wind speed, direction, and water flow align perfectly, making it rare and magical when witnessed. Water climbs instead of falls, nature creating temporary impossibilities that remind us physics has loopholes we rarely consider. Number 2 brings Cherry Springs Dark Sky Park, the only such park in the eastern United States, where you can see the Milky Way with naked eyes. Complete absence of light pollution creates viewing conditions that most Americans have never experienced. Stars crowd the sky so thickly that constellations become hard to distinguish, the universe revealing itself in overwhelming detail. This darkness represents what night looked like throughout human history before artificial light stole the stars from most of civilization. And at number 1, Pennsylvania has a greater variety of geological formations than any other state east of the Mississippi River. From ancient glacial valleys to erosion-carved gorges to underground cave systems to active fault lines, everything exists packed into one state. Scientists say, if you want to study Eastern American geology, Pennsylvania is literally a textbook written in stone. Every major geological process that shaped the eastern United States left its signature here, making this single state a complete encyclopedia of Earth science, spanning nearly 500 million years.